I love that.
Certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day.
Brilliant.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Rankin. This is going to be a fun one today. We're talking about sports movies of the 2010s. And we've got a fun panel here. Over here we've got Dan. Dan, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I always like talking about sports movies, no matter what decade it's in.
We've also got Jacob Barber here. Jacob, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this topic, and I think Baltimore's Super Bowl chances just went away as we speak.
And we've also got Jonathan here. Jonathan, how's it going?
Okay, a miracle just happened. Marquez Valdez-Scantling caught a ball. He finally caught a ball at the right time. But I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to talk about sports while watching sports, but I had to come on this episode because this was a good decade for sports films. And as I was jotting down, potential candidates. So, let's talk about these movies today.
And last but not least, we've got Chad Rip here. Chad, how's it going?
Oh, well, thank you for calling me not least. I actually enjoy sports movies generally more than I do the sports themselves, although I am very fond of baseball, so I'm repping my Boston Red Sox, as Dan usually does, I believe, as well. I think he's got that. Is that a Celtics hat?
Yes, it is. And I got my.
There you go. Excited to talk about some sports films, 2010s. I have a huge list. There's a lot of great ones.
Wow. Okay.
As well, I've got my sporting related thing here right here for me as well. How the show versus we're going to each go around and nominate a sports movie I think belongs on the top 12 list of sports movies of the 2010s. And it's going to be interesting to see how people interpret what they consider a sports movie too, because there's a lot of different variations of it as well, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes up. But Dan, we're going to go to you first. What was the first movie you're going to bring up?
Well, I just want to tell everybody that I'm from a little town called Lowell, Massachusetts, and there's a very not a super popular boxer from Lowell, Massachusetts, but somebody that I was very well known. I knew quite a bit when I was growing up, and they made a movie about him, and his name is Irish Mickey Ward, and the name of the movie is called The Fighter, and The Fighter is about Irish Mickey Ward and his brother Dickie Eklund, and they're both from the same place as I am, Lowell, Massachusetts. And that movie really captured the life of what it's like growing up there, where people throw their trash in the backyard. You have those tenements, the 2-story tenements, and the whole stuff with the 8 sisters arguing and stuff. I really could not believe how close that movie resembled my upbringing, besides the boxing stuff. And I remember the fight with Mickey Ward and the French. There was a Frenchman he fought or whatever. I cannot for the life remember, but he actually had a major feud with a guy by the name of Arturo Gatti after this movie takes place, which I would like a sequel of The Fighter, to be honest. Mark Wahlberg ain't getting any younger. But yeah, I'm going to nominate The Fighter. I think it's a great film, and I think Melissa Leo and Christian Bale both won Academy Awards for this.
Jacob, what do you say about The Fighter?
Yeah, I love this movie. It's on my list. It's pretty high up on my list, actually. I think Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg give great performances here. I love the fighting scenes. I think they're really well done. But yeah, I haven't gone back to it recently. I need to give it a rewatch because it's been a while, and I remember just absolutely loving it the first time I watched it, and every time after that. But yeah, it's just been a while. So I wanted to use this as an excuse to rewatch it, but I just didn't have time to get to it. So hopefully, sometime soon. Because yeah, this movie I think it's incredible and it deserves to be on the list.
Jonathan, what do you say about the fighter?
First off, congratulations to the Chiefs for making the Super Bowl again. The Fighter. This is a really good movie. I think it's one of Leo's best performances, Benicio Leo's best performances. Mark Wahlberg's, Amy Adams' performances, and they're all great in this film. And it is kind of a powerful, true story. A little bit of I'm sorry. I think Leo was better in my opinion. Sorry. She really kills it. Yeah, they're all great. And David O. Russell's direction, really well done, well crafted. I didn't love that style of filmmaking in the boxing ring. I think it was just a little too much, and I think it's a style that it was ambitious, but it didn't work for me. But overall, I think it's a fantastic film about not just boxing, but also about brotherhood. And I think there's another one about brotherhood I think is good as this one. So I'll say yes to The Fighter.
Chad, what do you say about The Fighter?
There were like 3 big ones that I wanted to check out for this, and The Fighter was one. The Fighter is one that I did throw on, and I watched about a third of it. And I just really wanted to finish it because I was digging a lot of what I saw. I think I like David O. Russell a lot, maybe not as a person necessarily, but his filmmaking, because I love like Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, stuff like that. I think is really great. And The Fighter, I think, kind of rules. I particularly really liked Christian Bale in the movie. I think I just don't understand how that dude is such a chameleon to basically adapt to the like Dan and other people who have lived in that area, to be like, that's a guy that lived there for 30 years or whatever, and it's like, nope, he's from England. But yeah, he makes me want to watch the movie more because I think he's kind of like the movie stealer, whereas like Mark Wahlberg I think is he's great, but it's funny when like a side performance can totally steal a movie. But yeah, I was very interested, and to hear like all the the praises from like Dan and everybody, I think it's definitely going to be a yes for me.
Yeah. And yeah, I just want Mark Wahlberg to go back to doing these kind of movies and not try to do these streaming comedies that that aren't always good, or movies about him and dogs, which is coming out this year. The Arthur and the King or whatever it is. But yeah, the Fighter. I really enjoyed this a lot. I think it's a really good movie, and yeah, I would have suggest regardless. And so yeah, it's going to make the list. Jacob, we go to you for your nomination.
Yeah, I'll go from one fighting movie to another, and I'll go with Warrior. I think Warrior is incredible. This is just one of my favorite movies. Period. I think the performances we get from our 3 main guys here, Joel Edgerton, Tom Hardy, and Nick Nolte, are just fantastic. The family dynamic that they have, I think, is just incredible to watch and heartbreaking at times. And not to mention, WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle. So, of course, being the wrestling fan I am, I had to nominate the movie with a wrestler. And yeah, I think this movie's incredible. Like I said, one of my favorite movies, period. Every time I watch it, it climbs up my personal all-time list. And I think it's like, I've got it like top 20 now. I could watch this once a week and not get tired of it. So I'll go for Warrior.
Jonathan, what do you say about Warrior?
This was the movie I was alluding to a little bit ago, and I say 100% yes. I recently rewatched this film for this, and it had been a little bit of a long time, and it's as strong as ever after my first time watch. I caught up late to the game for this movie, and it has a lot going on in a good way. and that is quite powerful, and it subverts the tropes in a way. And until we get to that climactic fight between those brothers, and it ends very tenderly. You could call it manipulative, whatever, but it's actually very effective. So 100% yes to Warrior. It should definitely be on the list.
Chad, what do you say about Warrior?
Jonathan got late in the game. Well, I got even later because I just watched this like the past week. It's been like two, I think, rankums that have gone through where people were talking about Warrior, and I was like, I haven't seen it, and I finally got around to it. Very excited that I was able to get to this one. I do think at times it can feel like a little overly, feel kind of like a biopic and like a very over sentimental way at times, like towards the middle. But I will say, I think the build up, apart from that, and then the finish are so strong that it doesn't really matter. Like it built up really well, and then in the middle, I was like, all right, this is getting a little overly sentimental for me. And then Nick Nolte's big scene happened, and I was like, holy shit, okay. And then like that guy should have been nominated for something. And then at the end, I just thought it like finished so incredibly, with the two brothers having to duke it out, which is, of course, you got to have that happen. And then it ends up like being really, really sad, and so, but in a good way. So yeah, I thought it was a really, really great movie. I can't wait to watch it again. And kudos to having like the National play like 2 or 3 times in the movie, because I love that band. And if you play a band that a song from a band that I really love, I'm probably going to like your movie that much more. It's why I like Twilight, because of Radiohead. There you go. So yes to Warrior.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a really good movie. I'm really surprised that it didn't get more Oscar nominations than what it did. Like Nick Nolte was the only one that got nominated from the movie. And it just surprised me. Like I definitely would have had this before Best Picture easily. But yeah, it's a really good movie, and it's easily a yes for me too. I love this a lot. Admittedly, I've got to re-watch it because I haven't seen it in a while. But I still love it. I still remember a lot about it. But Dan, what do you say about Warrior?
Yeah, I saw this when it came out in theaters. I remember it was August when it came out. It was kind of under the radar a little bit, and it just absolutely blew me away. Another movie with two brothers, and like you guys said, Nick Nolte is amazing. But a little unknown fact is that they had the fight coordinator in the movie was Frank Grillo, and the guy that was supposed to play the trainer for Joel Edgerton dropped out, and they ended up getting Frank Grillo to do that, and the rest is history. Frank Grillo is now a guy that you know from Captain America and all these different movies, and he wasn't even an actor. He was just the fight coordinator.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
So I always have that in the back of my head when I watch Warrior. But another one, the announcers, I think some of the best announcing in any sports movie. I watched hundreds of sports movies, and I didn't know these announcers, and I'm like, wow, these announcers are really, really good, So I got a phone call coming, of course.
Frank Grillo.
Yeah,
Frank
Grillo. Frank Grillo was great, but the announcer, I really liked the announcing in the movie. I thought the announcing was really good. They really hyped up the matches and the fights and stuff. So that was something. I just got to be. I'll be right back.
But if that Warrior is going to make the list, Jonathan, we'll go back to you for your next nomination.
Yeah, I just saw Travis Kelce smooch Taylor Swift there on the screen. Anyway, yeah, I expect a lot of Taylor Swift in these incoming 2 weeks. Oh man, 2023 was her year. Anyway, yeah, not a movie in my opinion, by the way. But I digress. So the next, you know what? I'm going to save the other boxing movie. I think one of you will mention this later in the show. So let's divert from that. The next movie I want to mention is, I think, less of a sports movie, but than a business movie. But it handles the balance very well. And I'm going to nominate Moneyball. Yeah, Moneyball. I think the first time I watched it, I thought it was good. I mean, enough for it to crack my top 10. I thought it was a weak year, 2011, but it was enough. But I rewatch it more and more and more the older I get. And it gets stronger and stronger with every rewatch because, I deal with business half of the time, and I like being in that world, in that business world, when it comes to like sports management, player management, trades, handling the players, having chemistry with the players. It's done very, very well with a great direction by Bennett Miller and a great screenplay by Aaron Sorkin. I mean, it just pops, and it helps with their performances by help bolster the performances by Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and even Chris Pratt. Pratt's in the movie. So yeah, I'm going to nominate Moneyball. I think it's one of the stronger sports films of the 2010s.
Chad, what do you say about Moneyball?
Well, you want me to play first base? How hard could it be? Yeah, Moneyball, I think, is incredible. It actually kind of is tied in that year with Tree of Life for one of the movies that I thought should have won Best Picture that year. Was that the Argo year?
No, that was The Artist.
The Artist. I like The Artist, but I feel
it.
like Moneyball is definitely more of a timeless classic than The Artist is, in my opinion. But Oscars aside, I think Moneyball is fantastic, and I'll back up Jonathan here about like the sports of it all, is because I love how it doesn't. As much as I love like baseball and watching people play baseball, I love that it doesn't really focus on that. It is more of the business side of it. I think that's what Aaron Sorkin does really well, is write about like politics and business and law and like court and stuff like that, and he nailed it with this. But I love how it talks about kind of like the dark side and the underrated side of sports, where it's like going against the status quo. I love how it shows Billy Beane and how his career didn't pan out, and how sad that is. Like he was so lauded when he was first starting out as one of the people that's going to get scouted and going to go to millions of dollars and play the young person's game, and they just kept missing and then got too old, and then he started to do a GM. Still made money, but it's one of those things where you have a dream and then you're that close. But and then it also shows the business side where it's like the statisticians from the is Michael Lewis a book where it talks about how you can actually use math and statistics to look at someone who might throw weird, and then that's how they get kind of overlooked, and they're going to go with kind of like what they normally would go with, but you're sleeping on a lot of different players that could actually be factored in, and then that's how they were able to go from like a bottom team to a top team. And I don't know, I think all that is just so fascinating, and how you can bring stuff like that to like a mainstream audience that might not even know that much about baseball and still make it really interesting. I think is really cool. And obviously the stuff with Brad Pitt and his daughter in the movie and stuff is really, really sweet. So yeah, I love that movie. So of course this is a yes from me.
Yeah, this is one of those ones I was alluding at the start of the show, and I was like, it'll be interesting to see how people determine sports movies. Because I know a lot of people like sports movies. Oh, they have to be about the people playing the sport. They have to be about this
Playing.
And this. Yeah. Which is fair. I mean, I'm not disputing that if that's how you want to see him sports, then that's great. But yeah, I do consider this a sports movie because this shows like another side of sports that people don't see a lot of the time, and arguably, like, I'm not a big fan of sports. I don't watch sports, but I'm more intrigued some of these behind the scenes dealings and all that. And it's one of those ones like and it's just really interesting and considering like I don't follow American sports at all, so I very really I don't understand the mechanics of baseball as it is. But I still found Moneyball a very interesting movie and great movie, and I'm gonna say it's an easy yes for me as well. Dan, what do you say about Moneyball?
Yeah, I read this book when it came out, and I absolutely love the book. And I was like, man, how are they going to turn this into a movie? And the chapter 4 is basically all about cybermetrics, but the rest of the book is pretty authentic to the movie. The movie is pretty authentic to the book, and I love the little things like you get the scouts in the room, and they're talking about various players, and they're like, oh, this guy's not, he's got weak knees, and he's got problems with his girlfriend, so he's not going to be any good. And like these old time scouts got these weird ways of coming up with these players. And as Chad mentioned, I'm a Boston Red Sox player, a fan, and I was a fan of Scott Hatteberg. He was our backup catcher, but he was never going to see the field with Jason Varitek. We had Jason Varitek, so we traded Scott Hatteberg, and he went from catcher to first base, and and little things like that really made me love this movie. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's some really good people in the movie as the coach or the manager of the team. Of course, the actual guy that was the manager, he didn't like the cast of Philip Seymour Hoffman as him. But yeah, I think this is a great movie. And there are multiple sides of sports movies, and this, there's enough baseball in this for me to call this a sports movie. Plus, the Scout with what was it, Brendan Fraser and what's his face is a sports movie. What's his name? Got it.
Is it the Scout?
The Scout, yeah. What was his name? That's in the Scout.
I don't remember the movie.
What was he was in Taxi Driver? Remember, he was the assistant in the political office. What was his name?
Albert Brooks.
Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks is in the Scout, right? And
Yeah.
so those. I mean, there's various sides of what you consider a sports movie, and I think there's enough sports in here, especially with the streak and all that kind of stuff going on. This is definitely a sports movie for me, not just about sabermetrics. I definitely recommend it. Cybermetrics.
Oh, J.K. Simmons is also in the Scout. I just had to look it up as it sounded interesting. But Jacob, what would you have said about Moneyball?
Well, I would have given this a yes as well. I think behind the scenes sports movies are just as much sports movies as on the field or on the court sports movies. I mean, you can't have a professional sports team without the behind the scenes workers. So they're just as important. I think great performances here. I go back to this one quite often. So this was an easy yes for me.
Chad, we go to you for your next nomination. What do you think?
Okay, so I have one that wasn't on my list, and then today my good buddy Dylan reminded me about this movie because I wasn't considering this type of movie, which is a shame on me, and I'm glad that I did because no, it's not the Eras Tour, Jonathan. Don't you're raising your eyebrows.
It didn't come out in the 2010s.
That's very true. But it's a documentary that I fell in love with. It's Free Solo. I think Free Solo is phenomenal. Okay, we'll see. But I think it's phenomenal. I actually saw this in the theater back when I used to go to the theaters a lot, and I could see things like Free Solo at my not local but Baltimore indie theater, and I fell in love with it. And I actually it really got me into wanting to learn more about rock climbing. So like I took a class and I would go to do a lot of the rock walls and, do some bouldering and actually climb with the rope and stuff like that. But to see this man, Alex Honnold, who is, one could say, absolutely insane, out of his mind, he's also one that knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he couldn't really be talked out of it. He was like, that's what I want to do. That's how here's how I'm going to accomplish it. I'm going to do the path, the route, so many times that I just know it, and I'm going to do it without a rope. And if I die, I die. There's a risk to everything. But I love how this documentary goes through all of that. They talk about, what it would mean to fall from your death, how many people have actually done it, like fallen and died from rock climbing, but also talked about the sport itself and how, people, would carve out their like little paths on the thing. They talk about different mountains. They talk about why El Capitan is a really sought out one that a lot of people love to climb. And I just love how harrowing it is, how they basically climbed with him while they were making the thing, but they were like trying to get it to where they weren't in his way so they wouldn't affect him. So it's just a really like visceral, like in your face kind of real way of documentary filmmaking. And I think it's so incredible. I would love for them to like bring this to like or IMAX re-release, because I think people should see it that way. But it's just as invigorating as home. I loved watching it at home too. And I could go on because I love just Alex Honnold is just so interesting to me, and so is the sport of rock climbing. And it's a wild ride, Free Solo.
This is this is like, rock climbing is considered a sport. Like, I'm not even trying to go switch bit. I just haven't seen the movie. So yeah, it's a no. Dan, what do you say about Free Solo?
Yeah, I saw this when it came out in theaters back then, and I was a little bitter about it at first because movies that I loved even more than this, like Three Identical Strangers and Won't You Be My Neighbor, weren't nominated for the Oscar that year. And I was just so upset because I love those two movies. And so I was bitter towards Free Solo for a while, even though I'd watched it, but as time had gone by, I distanced myself from that those being bitter about those two movies not getting nominated for Oscars. I have more respect for this movie, and the filmmakers, they went on to make another movie that I loved a lot called The Rescue, or I think it's called The Rescue, about the cave rescue of the soccer team in the Philippines. And then I realized, wow, these filmmakers are really great filmmakers. They pick great topics to make. And then this year, 2023, they made their first film that wasn't a documentary. A lot of people say, why wasn't this a documentary? Why are they making this into a regular film? And that's called Naiad. And that, two Oscar nominations later. So obviously these people that have made Solo, the rescue, the cave rescue, whatever, the cave. And now these people know how to make movies. It doesn't matter if it's a documentary or if it's a regular film. They know how to make great movie. And it seems like sports movies are their jam. They just pick these inspirational sports stories and they turn them into movies. And so Free Solo, as the years have gone by, I've respected it a lot more. I've seen another rock climbing movie since then about a different person, had a different outcome than Alex Honnold. So, but yeah, definitely a yes for me. I definitely think this is a sports movie, and documentaries are movies. So yes.
Jacob, what do you say about Free Solo?
Heard good things, just haven't seen it
yet. Jonathan, what do you say about Free Solo?
Why did you have to remind me about that year? It's 2018 of those two documentaries not being nominated. Ridiculous. Even ridiculous this year with
those
Beyond
were
and still,
too,
I just documentary branch. I have bad news. I haven't seen it. That's why I reacted like that. And yeah, I understand. I mean, documentaries are movies too, but I haven't seen Free Solo yet. I know that's one of those like big time recent documentaries I have missed. So yeah, I have to abstain.
Yeah, I mean, it just a quick side note. It's and we'll get more into this about this tomorrow when we talk about the nominations. Plug for Gone with the Wind, but the documentary about it seems to not like documentaries about real people. It's like Wrote You Be My Neighbor, Val from
That's true.
and Still. So it's like,
Still, Three Identical Strangers. Wow.
yeah. But anyway, but with that, Free Solo is not going to make this list. Moving on to me, going to another behind the scenes type movie. I'm going to bring up Draft Day. I saw that I watched this for the first time this week because it's one that I've been meaning to get to for the longest time and I finally did. It's one of those ones like hearing a lot about like NFL drafts and all that kind of stuff. Like I've never really understood a lot of the behind the scenes of how they work and all that. This movie was just interesting. It was really interesting. It really showed a lot of that kind of behind the scenes stuff that can happen. Like especially with the like late Chadwick Boseman popping up at one point of this movie. You got Tom Welling, Kevin Costner, and Jennifer Garner, and it's just a really interesting movie. I just loved it a lot. But Dan, what do you say about Draft Day?
You know, I'll tell you what. When I first saw Draft Day years ago, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a little bit melodramatic." You know what I mean? And I don't know if Ivan Reitman kind of got this idea where he got this idea from. But as the years have gone on, see, I'm a massive Kevin Costner fan, and I'm a big Kevin Costner sports fan. You know, he's done so many sports movies over the years. I've kind of, as a guilty pleasure, I've kind of come to like Draft Day more. There's so, like you said, Malcolm, there's so many cameos as Chadwick Boseman. There's actually Jonathan Caro, who was just here. He had a Texans hat on. A running back for the Texans was in the movie. He was one of the players that they drafted in the movie. Arian Foster is in the movie. He played for the Texans. It's Jonathan's team. So there's kind of, you have those. I just the way that how the trades go and we're gonna pilfer this. The Jacksonville Jaguars are gonna get pilfered in this, and it's so funny some of the stuff that happened, you know, but there's a lot that goes into the draft. It's more than what people think that go into the draft. And there's a fictional story of all teams that would end up doing good out of the Cleveland Browns. So there are some anticlimactic kind of like melodramatic type of things that are in there. You say, okay, this isn't going to happen. This won't happen. But as a movie, it is a fun movie. And as the years have gone on, I've find myself enjoying Draft Day more. So, you know, we got, it's 12. So what the hell? I mean, if we get it bumped off, we get it bumped off. I mean, I'll say yes for Draft Day.
I'm not gonna lie, when you shouted out Jonathan Caro, I thought you were about to say Jonathan Caro has a cameo in the movie. It's like I didn't see that.
Well, yeah, in spirit, I do.
But Jacob, what do you say about Draft Day?
I love this movie. I think this and Moneyball kind of make a great double feature with if you're into like the sort of behind the scenes of sports. Yeah, I think despite the way they make the Seahawks look, thankfully the Seahawks were a good team around this time. So I had that to look forward to. If they had just handed the ball off. But that's a discussion for another time. I think this movie is just really good. I think Kevin Costner, who and Chadwick Boseman, probably not the first time we're going to bring their names up. Probably not the last time we'll bring their names up. I think they're really good. Yeah, just I don't know how realistic it is, but I don't care. It's fun. and I have a good time with it. So I'm gonna give it a yes.
Jonathan, what do you say about draft day?
Draft day is absurd. It is kind of absurd, but it's fun. Yeah, you just said it. It's a fun movie. It is rewatchable. It is a rewatchable movie. I believe it is the last movie by Ivan Reitman. Yeah, some of the tricks he does it doesn't quite work, but the whole story with regarding the draft and its business, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, the personal stories are not that strong, but yeah, Costner's great, and I liked Chadwick Boseman. I mean, that was basically like one of his first performances where you see that potential, that potential in him, especially the moment where he finds out that he is drafted as the first player as the first player in that year's draft, and it's fantastic, quiet acting. Yeah, if you think about it, I'll just complain. I'll just defend my executive for a moment. Nick Casario was basically Kevin Costner this year. I'm serious. Like, he got the second pick, and then he made a lot of trades with, I believe, Arizona to get that third pick, and it paid off. So it paid off really well. And he even traded their own pick with Cleveland, and what happened there? Cleveland lost. So that's amazing. But getting back to the movie, it's a yes. It's a yes for me because of rewatchability. Jacob said it earlier. There may be another Costner film in this decade that may come up that I am a fan of, and it's amazing that he has a lot of sports movies. So yeah, I'm gonna say yes to Draft Day. It's a good movie.
Chad, what do you say about draft day?
I believe I saw Draft Day back when it came out. I don't remember it being particularly that good, even though there's like a lot of people that are defending it. I think it's a mistake to put that one on the list. Yeah, there's 12 spots, but there's so many other great ones. But I'm overruled, so there you go. I would have said slight no.
Sorry.
So if that draft day is going to make the list, and we go back to Dan for his next nomination.
Yeah, I live in an area of the country where racing is a big thing. I live about 20 minutes away from Daytona International Speedway, and we got the 24 hours of a Rolex 24 hours, and it reminded me of non-NASCAR, non-stock car racing, and how racing is like next to soccer. It's like all over the world. Little small countries have kids growing up to be race car drivers and stuff like that. And a movie I saw back then, I'm a big fan of Ron Howard in general, but I like it. I like a sports movie from the 2000s that he did. I think it's one of the best ones. But one that I was really surprised at how good it was and how the drama really played out in it, and the racing was really good. Is it's called Rush. It stars Daniel Bruhl as Nicky Lauda, and then Chris Hemsworth as James Hunt. These rivals of Formula One racing, and England is a major Formula One racing country and stuff. And look, I didn't know a lot about these people, and I love sports movies when it's about people that I don't know a lot about. A sport Formula One racing, I really didn't know a lot about. And I'll tell you, he puts you right in the car, Ron Howard did, and it feels like you were in the car with these guys racing around these tracks. And I was just, and the sound design and the cinematography and the camera work is phenomenal in this movie. And that rivalry, you genuinely, like, if it were like sucked into this rivalry between these two guys, and two great performances between Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl. So I'm going to go with Rush.
Jacob, what do you say about Rush?
Yeah, I'm glad I watched this. I watched it yesterday, actually. It was a blind spot of mine, but I've heard a few friends say nothing but positive things about this. And yeah, I think the Formula One racing is a lot more exciting than NASCAR because it's more than just making a left turn. So it's got that going for it. And yeah, like Dan said, putting you in the car and like, I think it's quite exciting at times. The rivalry between the two leads is really good, and you can tell that it's also like they start to respect each other because towards the end, after Daniel Bruhl's character has that accident, and the reporter is kind of being a dick to him, and he just goes in there and like, hey, why don't you go ask your wife now if she can still, or whatever he says. So that respect is there, even though there is that rivalry, and I think they captured that really well. Yeah, the racing scenes I think are all excellent. This isn't too high on my list because, like I said, I did just see it for the first time yesterday. But I do think I'll go back to this one quite often, actually. So I'll give it a yes.
Jonathan, what do you say about Rush?
Oh no, I gotta stop because we gotta admire his baby there. Oh, you boo. Hello, hi. Yeah, sports, go team. Baby Webb. Yeah. Wait, what's his name? Chad?
Elliot.
Elliot. Yeah.
That sounds like a baseball name.
Elliot Webb. Hey, it does kind of. Yeah.
It's gonna be a future
Anyway,
baseball player.
I had to stop because I love babies. Okay. Anyway, what were we talking? Rush. Okay, Rush. I love this movie. Rush I think it's one of the most underrated movies of the decade. Ron Howard did a superb job. He exceeded my expectations with this movie because I had a question. I was like, Ron Howard racing movie. I was like, okay, all right. And then it just blew my socks off. It is one of his best movies. Yeah, Hemsworth is great. Bruhl, and it is one of his best performances, probably his best. Yeah, I think all around they're great. The personal stories are great. The racing sequences are fantastic. Yeah, it's interesting that he has two of the great sports movies in his arsenal, this and Cinderella Man from the previous decade. So, yeah, if it's the 2000s, obviously Cinderella Man would easily been on the list. But talking about Rush, yeah, this is an easy yes for me. Bruhl, well, it was a tough year for supporting actor nomination, but yeah, he could have been like in conversation if I remembered. But yeah, 100% for Rush.
Chad, what do you say about Rush?
Like what? First we got Amadeus, now we got Rush. Speaking of rivalries, yeah, Cinderella Man totally would have made it on, but I really love Rush. I think this is a great nomination. Oh, also sorry for the distraction, by the way. But I think Rush is a great nomination. I think this is another great example of a co-star or supporting performance just stealing the show, because I think Daniel Bruhl really makes this movie. I love the intensity. They have like the driving scenes. I love all of the intensity outside of the driving scenes, and just like how far people will go to try and win, and then maybe learning that winning's not everything. It has been a while since I've seen the movie, but I actually really, really liked it, and I didn't know if I would. And I really got into it. I think it's a really fun, incredible, but also scary and harrowing movies in some ways. So yeah, this is a total yes for me. Great pick.
Yeah, I thought Geddy Lee was great in Rush. The song Tom Sawyer is equally amazing. Oh, sorry, wrong Rush. But the fact they didn't use any Rush songs in the movie Rush is insulting. Because considering one of this, which is funny because one of Rush's songs apparently was called Cinderella Man at one stage.
They also have Red Barchetta
Really?
without a car.
Yeah, I mean, once again, according to Wikipedia, I don't know how true it is, but they apparently had a song called Cinderella Man, which must have been changed to A Farewell to Kings at some stage. I don't know, but I just thought that was random when I was looking at Rush for that to just play into that joke. But yeah, no. Back to the movie Rush. I thought this was good. This is one of those ones that I didn't know what to expect. So to speak, there's I'm not like when it comes to racing, like I'm not a big racing fan. Like I don't even play racing car video games for that. But there's something about the movies about racing which kind of intrigue me, which mostly always get nominated for sound at the Oscars too. So it's surprising that Ferrari actually missed. But yeah, Rush would be an easy yes for me anyway. And yeah, it's going to make the list. Jacob, we go back to you.
Yeah, we'll go from racing cars to racing on your feet. One that I actually just finished watching about an hour ago. McFarland USA. I absolutely loved this movie. I thought this movie was really good. Kevin Costner again. Coming to this small town, and he's a football coach, but doesn't see eye to eye with the head football coach and kind of gets dismissed from the team, and finds out that there's some good runners here, and decides to start a cross country team. And yeah, I thought this was a really cool story about like not just being a team in the sense of like a sports team, but also being a team just in the community, and the coming together, and being there for each other. And I just thought this movie was really well done. It left me with a big smile at the end of it, seeing like during the end credits when we see where these people have been and what they've been up to, and how many of them are still in the community, which I think is really cool. Well, as of the release date of the movie, which is like 8 or 9 years ago at this point, but still being in the same community 30 years later, I think is incredible. And yeah, I didn't think a movie about cross country running would be as good as this, but it was really good. Kevin Costner was good. All the I don't know any other names. I apologize. But all the athletes were also really good. And the young Elsie Fisher too. I had to look that. That was cool to see. She plays the younger daughter. And so, yeah, one that like I said, I just watched this an hour ago, but I may just recency bias, maybe playing a part here, but I absolutely loved it. So that'll be my next nomination.
Jonathan, what do you say about McFarlane USA?
Yeah, it is Elsie Fisher. Yeah, I forgot about that. This was my wild card pick. This was my next nomination, and yeah, you know what? Like since as far back as I can remember, I mean, I think Disney movies started with sports entering in the sports realm in the 90s, if I recall. I don't know if there are any in the 80s, but you can look that up later if we're gonna include Herbie, and then obviously back then. But yeah, I was struggling to find one good one of this decade, and McFarlane USA is the one real good one. It moved me. It's an exceptionally well-told story about not just Jim White and his family, but also about the community, about the most of the racers, about how about the family's hardships, and yeah, it's a terrific film. I think it's also another underrated sports film of the decade, and yeah, it's a fantastic Disney sports movie, and it is really well directed by Malcolm. Get ready for this, Nicky Caro. Not related, by the way. Nicky Caro of Whale Rider fame. So, not just because, it's not because she has a similar last name, but because it is a really good movie. I'll say yes. Yes to McFarlane USA.
And shout out Danny Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
That final.
That's not Danny Diaz. That's not Danny Diaz.
But Chad, what do you say about McFarlane USA?
Well, I was actually going to ask if there was any relation between Jonathan and Nikki, but it has been addressed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen this one, but hey, it's another one to add to the list. I definitely want to check it out, and you can give Draft Day a second watch, I guess.
Yeah, no, this was another one that I watched for this was I was, as I do for all these shows lately, like I make up lists letterbox, and they have the option where you can find where they're streaming, like, and I saw a whole bunch of these. I'm actually on Disney Plus, like this, another one that I really like. I actually liked a little bit more than this, to be honest. But yeah, if I knew, so it's a good movie, and it's one of those ones like it's actually largely an unknown cast as well, like and which is something rare that you would find for these kind of movies. Normally they'll get a whole bunch of these somewhat relatively known like people there, but there's a few known ones here. Like Maria Bello plays Kevin Costner's wife. The actress that was Nurse Beth in Short Term 12 is in this as well. And but yeah, I thought it was a good movie. And yeah, so it's going to be a yes for me. Dan, what do you say about McFarlane USA?
Yeah, I had kind of a list of ones that I thought would make the list, and I actually did like this in theaters when I saw it. I like a good inspirational sports movie, especially with Kevin Costner. But this, on my specific list that I had, that I was going to try to get movies ranked for this. This was just on the outside looking in, so I would have had to have said slight no, even though you guys have voted it in.
Right, Jonathan, we go back to you. What's your next nomination?
Okay, well, someone has to bring this up, because if this is not on the list, then we got to start over, and or even erase this episode. Creed. I mean, Creed. Ryan Coogler's entrance into this realm of sports filmmaking, into this franchise, and I had tempered expectations when this was announced, and obviously I did not know Ryan Coogler, as Ryan Coogler. I mean, I knew he did an exceptional job with Fruitvale Station, but I was asking myself, like, can he follow it with this? And he did. And while not as great as Fruitvale Station, I think it's a really, really good movie about Adonis just starting on his own and not just bringing up, just his name, the Creed name, but his own name into the boxing ring. And the chemistry between him and Rocky is fantastic. And also the chemistry between him and Tessa Thompson, it's very good. It took me a while after the first watch, it didn't quite work for me at first. It felt like a discounted relationship or a discount version of Rocky and Rocky and Adrian at the time. But no, Creed is fantastic, a very good movie. It should be on the list.
Chad, what do you say about Creed?
It's been a while since I've seen all of the Rocky franchise or whatever, but I love the original Rocky. And I was also wondering, is Creed going to be a good Rocky movie? And honestly, I'd have to rewatch all of them again to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that Creed is the second best Rocky movie. I think Creed is incredible. I think Coogler did a great job. Michael B., it was like a star-making performance from him. And I just love how they team up to just make great movies. I think they're just an incredible duo. I think this is just a really, really great boxing movie. I love how they incorporate Rocky into the first Creed. There's a lot of sentimentality with him and his performance in that. And I love how it's, Adonis trying to kind of distance himself from the Creed name for a little bit until he has to actually accept that that's who he is. The level that they went to get a lot of these scenes made, the story about Michael B. Jordan actually getting knocked out during the shot. to get the perfect shot. It's like, wow, okay, so you're actually gonna go, toe to toe and fight in the ring, Michael B, to make the movie that's perfect. I love stuff like that. So, I think Creed is an incredible movie. It's probably going to be my next thing that I brought up, since I couldn't get Free Solo in. I'm like, Creed should be a no-brainer to get in. So yes.
Yeah. I actually like the first two Creeds more than the first Rocky movie personally. And yeah, on any given day, I could switch between this or Creed 2, which is my favorite in this franchise. But I do think Creed is a really good movie, yeah, so it's going to be yes for me. Dan, what to say about Creed?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a little bit down on the Creed franchise compared to other people. I consider I actually gravitate more towards the Rocky franchise, specifically Rocky 1, 2, and 4, and I have Rocky 3 as a guilty pleasure. But this was a good movie, and it pulled on your heartstrings in a lot of different ways. And I think Mark Rylance stealing that Oscar from Sylvester Stallone was a travesty, because I really believe Stallone deserved that Oscar that year, for Best Supporting Actor. I think he really brought a lot of emotional heft to the role, and into the film, in a supporting role opposite Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, and I was familiar with Fruitvale Station, so I was looking forward to this because of Ryan Coogler's direction and so forth. So, I would have had Creed on the list.
Jacob, what do you say about Creed?
Yeah, this was an easy yes. I think there's people that call this their favorite movie in the Rocky franchise, and I get it. I think this movie is really good. It's my second favorite, right behind the original Rocky, but like that's no slight on the movie at all. It's incredible. I think Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, anytime they collab, like I'm in. Fruitvale Station, this movie, whatever they plan to do next, like I'm in. I think they work really well together. And yeah, it's Michael B. Jordan's best performance since Hardball. Let's be honest, he was incredible in that movie. You guys know what I'm talking about. Jamal, he best.
I mean, come on. I mean,
movie.
Steven, I mean, it's not really saying much in my opinion, but I mean, although Rocky 2 is underrated.
But anyway, if Arms Wide Open, Creed makes the list. Chad, we go back to you for next nomination.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and nominate I, Tanya. I think I, Tanya is incredible. I love the Winter Olympics quite a bit, and I love the figure skating is always my favorite part. To see like one of the most like infamous, parts of like figure skating history, come on screen, but to show like kind of Tanya Harding as the protagonist, is very interesting, and I love how they have it to where it's like the unreliable narrator type of thing, so you don't really know what happened, kind of a deal, but they make it funny. I remember like Paul Walter Hauser, so funny, holy shit, in that movie. He's the best. He's like, he like wants to be like some sort of like spy or something like that, the way he talks and whatnot. The people who actually perpetrated the crime, idiots, which I'm sure that's exactly how it was in real life, though, just dumb, and stuff. And yeah, I think Margot Robbie just kind of ruled in this. And then Allison Janney, right? I got the right name, correct? Great performance from her as well. And Mark Hamill, is he the other guy? He played Margot Robbie's.
Sebastian
Stan. I'm making a joke.
We kind of saw that.
Anyway,
what a different movie you saw then.
But a different movie, yeah. No, but I think it's incredible. I love how it showed kind of like she wasn't like the most conventional figure skater. And yeah, I think the movie's not the most conventional sports movie, but I still think it rules, and I love it. So, Tanya.
Yeah, this is one that I didn't know what to expect. Like when I heard they were making a movie about this incident, like I was probably about 10 when this actually happened. But yeah, and I vaguely remember hearing about this in the news. Not that I was paying much attention because I was only 10. but but yeah, the fact that they did a comedy movie about this, and it still really works. And I think the way they went about it and made it kind of like this whole mockumentary thing about Tanya explaining why it had to happen that way and all that. I think it was a really interesting twist to do it with. And I really love this movie a lot. And yeah, and it's just so great. Dan, what do you say about I, Tonya?
Yeah, I was probably about 18 when this happened, and we were in the age at that point in our country where it was just like, what's the next big story? What and of course, at the end of it, all the trucks move on, and they're going to the OJ thing, and then after that, we've got a Clint Eastwood movie about the Atlanta bombing, and it's just like that 24-hour news thing. And this is the thing at that particular time, the I, Tanya thing. And I thought Margot Robbie was incredible. She learned how to figure skate for this, and then Allison Janney with the bird on her shoulder, and just these just complete idiots. This whole thing, it just shows you how stupid this whole idea of what they were planning was and stuff, and jealousy when it comes to these type of sports like figure skating and gymnastics, and these parents, and it's just so overbearing to these kids and stuff. And that's the kind of the sad thing about some of these sports, is like these parents try to live vicariously through their kids, and this is the prime example of the messing this girl up, and but the movie itself was hilarious. It was funny. This director has gone on to make a couple other really good movies after this, and earlier this year, Dumb Money. Same director directed Dumb Money earlier this year. Very good movie if you haven't seen that yet. But yeah, this is going to be my next pick. So good one, Chad.
Jacob, what do you say about I, Tonya?
Yeah, I mean, if it got back around to me, this probably would have been the movie I brought up, because I think this movie is hilarious, like you guys all mentioned. Margot Robbie given an incredible performance. I think Allison Janney steals the show. I mean, there was a reason she won Best Supporting Actress this year, because she's just really good. And yeah, Paul Walter Hauser. Anytime he's involved in a movie, show, whatever, I'm tuning in, because I think he never fails to give a good performance, in my opinion. I think he's just really good, just whatever he wants to do. And this is no different. So yeah, this would have been yes. We gotta get some figure skating representation here. Come on.
Women in general, right?
But yeah. Jonathan, what do you say?
Yeah, this is a very good movie. It has that innovative storytelling that echoes Goodfellas in a way. Yeah, it's basically the figure skating Goodfellas movie. Not as great as that movie, but it's a fantastic movie by Craig Gillespie. Yeah, Hauser and who else?
Griffin Newman is in Draft Day.
Oh well, yeah. I thought he was alluding to. I Itanya. I was like, who else is in Itanya that is a Shwana? But no, this is a fantastic movie. Itanya was. It was very good. I was a fan of this film. Robbie is incredible. Figure skating scenes are fantastic. Look, when this came out, I was a baby, so I don't recall the events of this story. But yeah, but I read about it. I heard about this event, and it is devastating and shocking and stupid. And But Gillespie, creates that style that is quite innovative and original, and it is an unconventional sports film that is, deservedly one of the better sports films of the decade. So, yes to I, Tonya.
That Tanya is going to make the list. We've got 4 spots left.
A lot of yeses today, yeah. Love it.
I'm going to try for this one and see what happens. But at the risk of getting multiple like fighting type sports in this list, I'm going to try for Fighting with My Family, which is arguably one of the best movies that WB Studios has ever produced. Look, this is one of those movies that when they announced that Paige was getting a biopic, it's like I was with a few people like, why is Paige the first one that they're doing a biopic on? Like, there's plenty of other ones that they could have done, but after watching, it's like, yeah, I think I get it. I kind of understand the story. She definitely did have one of those interesting careers, where she was like fast track to win the NXT Championship and all that. And this is such a great movie. Well, I expect in a few years we'll probably get a movie about a different WWE related scandal that's still kind of breaking, but that's probably a few years away yet. I think Fight of My Family is a good movie, and it's definitely one that I will go back and watch a lot. But Dan, what do you say about Fighting with My Family?
Yeah, that was a breakout year for Florence Pugh, and the first movie of the breakout year for her was Fighting with My Family, and Famke Janssen was in it, I believe. No, not Famke Janssen. Tyrion, the Lannister, Cersei Lannister. She's the mother. Lena Headey. Lena Headey is in it, and then you got Nick Frost in there as the parents, and you got what's his name?
The Rock.
The Rock is in there in a cameo.
Nick Frost, I think, is the one you're thinking.
Nick Frost. I said
Nick Frost. Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn is in it. I still remember that sign where, she goes through all the training, she does all this stuff, and there's like a line of people there, and he's got the clipboard, and he's like, "Hey, okay, I'm going to say thank you for everybody for coming. I'm just going to name off the people that are going to move on," and he names off, and he's Paige, and that was the only person he names off the whole list of people that went through all the training and everything. I thought that was kind of strange. But there's so many good sports movies in this decade, and this one would just miss the list. Same thing for me with McFarlane USA. It'd be 13, 14 in there somewhere for me. So unfortunately, I would have to say no for this one, even though I did like it. Malcolm.
Jacob, what do you say about Fighting for My Family?
Yeah, it's interesting. A WWE Studios film about Paige, directed by Stephen Merchant, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Being a wrestling fan, that might sway my opinion a little bit, because Paige isn't doesn't have the typical look, especially at that time. It's a little bit different nowadays. If you can wrestle, that's all that matters. It's not so much about just the look anymore. And so, it was a really, really interesting story. They did take some liberties because they just completely skipped over the entire NXT run, and they just got to her, debuting and winning their main women's title, which is not how it happened. But I loved all the training scenes, the stuff with Vince Vaughn, I think is good. Nick Cross is as good as her dad, and I'd give it a yes, but I would understand if it didn't make the list. I would understand why, but I just really love this movie.
Jonathan, what do you say about Fighting for Family?
It's on the cusp of my personal 12 list. This is a difficult one because I like this one a lot. Yeah, it's a very good. There are very good performances across the board. Yeah, like you said, the training scenes are fantastic. It was a banner year for Florence Pugh. This is a tough one. This is very tough. Yeah, let me see. How many fighting movies do we have here?
We have 2 boxing movies and a MMA movie.
Yeah, this is tough. Because I'll be honest, I watched 3 movies this week to prepare for this for the first time, and one knocked it out. It was an interesting film, and because it's like 13, 14 spot. I want to see where this goes. All right, it's up to you, Chad. So I'm gonna go slight no, but again, I'm not gonna be mad if it makes the list, so, because it's a really good movie. So I'm gonna go slight no.
Chad, what do you say about fighting with my family?
I mean, I'm not that big of a wrestling fan. I'm what a lot of people, wrestling fans, I'm sure, called a normie or something like that. But no,
We've never used those words.
well, there you go. I didn't know that because I'm a normie. But anyways, no, I adore fighting with my family. So yeah, it's making it. If I have anything to say about it, because we do have a lot of fighting movies, but hey, look, I mean, it's not like boxing. It's still wrestling. It's still a little different. But yeah, I feel like fighting movies make great sports movies a lot of the time. So that's why we have a lot of them. But I like how this is also different because it's like I, Tanya, you have a female protagonist, and this is, I think, my favorite performance from Florence Pugh. It's the first one that I saw from her that really made me know who she is, and it's just she's never really topped it for me. I mean, I like her in Midsommar. I just don't think it's that great as of a performance. And then even in Oppenheimer, like she's such a small part that I feel like this is still, I think, her standout one. And yeah, everyone else in the movie is great. I think it's Jack Lowden is who Dan was trying to pull earlier, her brother, because I love how the dynamic of that, where she makes it and he doesn't. There was that one stand-up comedy movie that Mike Birbiglia did. That was kind of about that. Like, what if one of you makes it and then the rest have to go, like, well, you're on Saturday Night Live now. But yeah, this movie is kind of about that. I love the dynamic between that, but all of the whole family, I think, just has great chemistry. Like Lena, Nick Frost, they're so funny. But then I love to see her journey about, like, whether she should, like, change herself to be more like everyone else, or kind of a deal. So you got like a lot of stuff in this movie that makes it really, really good. And I remember really, really digging it back in the day. I think this was Movie Pass era, was it? No. Yes, I believe it was. So yeah, this was a great movie. So I say yes.
But that Fighting for My Family does make the list, and we go back to Dan.
Well, I was going to bring up another wrestling movie, but now with an MMA movie, a wrestling movie, 2 boxing movies on the list, I don't think you guys would go for another wrestling movie. So I'm just going to skip out on that. No pun intended. I'm going to go for another inspirational kind of. It's not Disney, but I think it's Fox, and we got figure skating. Why not skiing? I just think a fun, I didn't know anything about this, but I lived through this. Actually, I lived through this, these Olympics that this takes place in. And okay, it's just not something you would expect to be a fun movie and something that you'd be interested in. Alcoholic coach played by Hugh Jackman, and a semi-blind, goofy kid from England ends up being, this long jump ski champion, Taron Egerton. And I mean, I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy Eddie the Eagle. until seen it multiple times, and it's just such an underdog story. And you just say to yourself, sports movies can come from anywhere if it's well written, well directed, well acted. You could really pull from any walk of life, any country, and I think Eddie the Eagle is one of the funniest, entertaining sports movies I've seen in a long time. And like I said, I wanted to bring up a wrestling movie, but we've got so many types of movies like that. I was like, I didn't think you guys are going to go for it. So this is something completely different. You got the cross country movie with McFarlane USA. You got this ice skating movie with I-Time. Why not the figure skating movie and see what, or the ski jump movie and see what people think. So I'm going for Eddie the Eagle.
Jacob, what do you say about Eddie the Eagle?
Yeah, this is an unfortunate one because I saw about half of it. It was on some streaming service, and then I just, for whatever reason, had to stop watching it, and then I just never went back to it. And then the topic comes up, and like, I should probably go back and finish that. And now it's not streaming anywhere, unfortunately. So what I saw, I really liked. And I'm a huge Hugh Jackman fan. He's one of my favorite actors, and I think Taron Egerton is probably one of my favorite actors working today. I think he's really good. So like the half that I saw, I really liked, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. And I'm sure I'm gonna like it just as much as I was enjoying the first half. So I usually don't give yeses to movies I've only seen half of, but I'll make an exception this time, and I'll give it a yes.
Jonathan, what do you say about Eddie the Eagle?
A little cheap, but okay. Anyway, I'll admit this. I watched it a while ago, a long time ago for the first time. I liked it, but then as years go by, I forgot about it. And when you brought it up, I thought, like, did I see this movie? Eddie the Eagle? Is this that Taron Egerton, Dexter Fletcher? Like, oh wait, it is, but it's not Rocket Man, but it is that movie. Okay. Boy, this is another tough one because when I was making the list, I also saw Eddie the Eagle, and I just did not put it on the list. But then, yeah, it's just one of those rare movies that it's just a blur for me. But yeah, I remember this movie. I remember laughing through it. It was a rooting interest film, like you root for him. Yeah, it's a crowd pleasing film. You know what? I'm gonna go a slight yes because I remember liking this movie and I enjoyed it. It's just been a while since I've seen it, and yeah, we need like a skiing film on the list, and yeah, I was like, this is a good movie. I remember liking it a lot, and yeah, why not?
Chad, what do you say about Eddie the Eagle?
I swear one day Jonathan is going to be so conflicted he's going to start pacing in his room. We're all going to have to wait for him.
The question is how long?
Right. But no, yeah, I actually really like Eddie the Eagle. I'll say yes to this one because I remember that one. I remember it being a really fun like underdog story. I don't know if there's a lot of movies about ski jumping, so that's kind of a cool sport to discuss and to see them like make. I mean, it's not like a competitive sport where people are going back and forth or anything like that, but it is an underdog story about just how good he can be and things like that. And I love the relationship he develops with Hugh Jackman's character. I think that was a really cool part of the movie. Kind of like if you look at something like Rocky, that's like a big underdog guy with a great coach, and that's like most of the movie. And then you have I mean, there's a love story in there, but and then you have like the fight at the end. Yeah, Eddie the Eagle is very similar, and not as good as Rocky, but it is a very, very good movie, I think. So I'll say yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Eddie the Eagle. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I do wish they'd found a way to slip a cameo of the Jamaican bobsled team from Cool Runnings in the background, because it is the exact same Olympics that he's competing at, that they were competing at Cool Runnings.
Yes, it was.
So I think it would have been, it's a really missed opportunity to not get a cameo. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to get John Candy or something like that in the background, but you could have had a quick cameo of the Jamaican bobsled team easily. It's not like I don't think they're doing much else these days. But that aside, I thought it was a really fun movie, and yeah, it's one of those ones that that I completely forgot it was based on a true story until I read more about it after watching the movie, because like yeah, but it's going to be a yes for me. It's going to make the list. They've got 2 spots left. Jacob, we go back to you for your next nomination.
Yeah, and I don't think this is making the list, but I always just like to bring up a movie, and I should have brought this. Maybe I should have brought this up earlier, but I don't think it just had a chance then either. But just movies that I really enjoy that I want to just shout out. And there just hasn't been a lot of great basketball movies lately. But Uncle Drew was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Uncle Drew. This was a movie where when I saw that this character played by Kyrie Irving, and we're getting a movie, and there's just going to be a bunch of basketball players in old makeup. This is not going to work. And I had fun with it. I thought it was fun. And I think sometimes with sports movies, you got your inspirational movies. You just got some like some of these fighting movies that we have on. They're just really good movies with great screenplays and great direction. Sometimes I just go into a sports movie and I just want to have fun, especially with basketball, because that's my favorite sport. I love playing basketball. I love watching basketball, and especially like the street ball aspect. I think you can do a lot with that. I think the basketball scenes here are really well done, and probably part of that is because you have actual NBA players in this movie, who aren't always the best actors, but I think they do a good enough job that I was entertained the whole time. And so, like I said, I don't expect this to make the list, but I always just want to shout out a movie that I personally enjoy, and Uncle Drew is that sports movie for me. So I expect to be followed by 4 no's, but again, just wanted to shout it
out. Jonathan, what do you say about Uncle Drew?
Okay, I'll start by saying this. I'm glad you liked this movie a lot. I'm glad you had fun. I had fun with this movie. However, I'll just add in it was just basically a one-off for me. I think it was inspired by that skit. I think the Uncle Drew skit.
Yeah.
So it was this was fun. It was a fun lark. But I'm not gonna come back to this anytime soon. So I haven't seen it since, and I'll be honest, it's nowhere near my running, for the top 12. So I sadly I have to say no. But I'm glad you had a good time. I had a good time as well, but it's not one I would go back and rewatch.
Chad, what do you say about Uncle Drew?
I mean, it's strange that we don't. I think basketball is a sport that would make a lot of really good movies, and it's sad that we don't just have a lot of representation in that. I mean, unless you count Space Jam or something like that, which I feel like a lot of people either grew up with or hate. But Uncle Drew is one that I haven't gotten around to yet, and I do want to check it out, especially if it's really funny and stuff. But I don't know if it would be a top 12. But I love the shot, because I feel pun intended, I guess, because at the beginning of a Rankum is when you bring a lot of these in, but then at the very end with your last ditch effort to, can I get a weird one in there? I love doing that. So I respect that, Jacob.
It's at least a fun one-time watch, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, according to Letterboxd, I've seen Uncle Drew once. I don't remember watching it. But I mean, I might give it if I see it on streaming something, I might watch again. But it's one of those ones like if Basketball is one of those ones like that's weirdly not had a lot, either not had a lot of movies in general or not a lot of big ones, because out of the movies that I've seen there, I've only seen about 3 basketball movies from the 2010s, like. Because you've also had like High Flying Bird and Just Right, which is both related around basketball as well. But whether or not they come up depends on how long we go. But it's going to be a no for Uncle Drew. Dan, what do you say about Uncle Drew?
Yeah, at this time, I believe Kyrie Irving played for the Boston Celtics, and so I was fascinated to see the movie because of the skit and all that stuff, and the cameos, with Shaq and some of the Nate Robinson and some of these guys that were in there. It was a real fun movie. More than I didn't think I was going to like it at all when I went into it, and I actually found myself enjoying it. But as far as this list goes, these 2 spots, you got to kind of save these 2 spots for a little bit more dramatic, more hefty sports movies than Uncle Drew. So yeah, I would have said no, but I did enjoy it when I first saw it. I had a press screening of it and saw it, and I kind of enjoyed it as a guilty pleasure type of thing.
But with that, we go back to Jonathan. What is the next movie you're going to bring up?
This is tough. I'll be honest. This is really tough. Yeah, fair, but
Look, those all 2000s, by the way.
yeah, that's what I was gonna. I'm gonna look it up because
The third one might be.
I think I think the third one is just
no, it doesn't count.
But that's
Sorry,
not a basketball movie, though. The third one.
not really. It's really the beginning of the movie. It's really the beginning of the movie. So, but I'm sorry to disappoint you that it's in the late 2000s. Sorry.
2008.
Oh yeah. Okay. But thank you, Dylan, for making me think for a little bit because you know what? I'm gonna go with one of the 3 that I watched this past week, and I'm gonna go with. I'm not gonna bring up the one that you think I may bring up, and because this is actually my personal favorite of the 3 that I rewatched, but I'm gonna go with one because of representation. And it's a hockey movie, and I'll be honest. After the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was kind of turned off by its nature, of its profane nature. But then the characters in the story, they grew on me as the movie went on, and it became a little, it became weirdly heartfelt. And I'm gonna go and nominate Goon. It's a weird movie. It's fantastically weird. The thing is, and its story is quite interesting because I believe it was going to be. Okay. And the story is quite interesting because I believe it premiered on Netflix, and it just, it was a success, a word of mouth success, and then they just greenlit it into premiere in theaters, and then critical word of mouth boosted this film, and then just garnered a reputation in terms of one of the endearing sports films of the decade. And Sean William Scott is very underrated as a performer because he could have easily drew in that Stifler personality, that persona into his character. But when we see him, he's quite different. He's quite earnest and sincere. He's sweet underneath that bouncer facade. And all he has to do is just basically enforce. That's it. He hits people. That's it. And it is ironically funny. He's great. Baruchel, he got on my nerves a little bit, but he's good. I love Allison Pill in the movie. She is fantastic with Sean William Scott. Kim Coates is great as the coach, and Liev Schreiber is great as the veteran enforcer. So I'm going to shoot my shot with the second wild card for Goon, and there's an interception for Goon. So yeah, we'll see what happens here.
Chad, what do you say about Goon?
Yeah, it's interesting. It took me a long time to actually check this one out, but I heard good things, and then I finally did. And Jonathan's like, I think 100% like on the money about like how this movie plays out. And you think it's going to be one thing, and then it kind of like surprises you. And I don't have like a ton left on my list that, and I did write Goon down, but I don't like structure it like top 12. Sometimes I do, but here it's like it's on the list. I threw it in. There's like 15 of them that I wrote down. And yeah, I think it's a good enough movie. I don't remember it too much, but I do think that it had some really good like performances in it, and I love that it surprises you. And we don't have any hockey movies on here, so I'm actually fine with Goon being number 11, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Goon. I don't like it. Sean William Scott is decent in it, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan. And I think the sequel's even worse, to be honest. So it's a hell no for me. Dan, what do you say about Goon?
Yeah, if this is a list of top 12 hockey movies, Goon would probably be 5 or 6 on the list. But this is a list of the best movies of the 2010s, and I don't think Goon is one of the best movies of the 2010s. Everything that Jonathan says, I agree with. It's one of those underrated sports movies you don't think about a lot, and this type of aspect of hockey, and these are Canadians making this movie, so there's a lot more love in the product of what they're doing. They have this care of what they're doing because they love hockey so much, but it doesn't really translate to the rest of the world in a lot of ways. And we have a lot of hockey. We're a hockey country, but we're not the hockey country like Canada is, and so it doesn't translate as much. Their love of it, it doesn't really translate to the rest of the world, and the movie to me doesn't really translate that well. But if it was a list of best 12 hockey movies, it'd probably be 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. So, but yeah, no for me on Goon.
Jacob, what do you say about Goon?
Yeah, this is another one that I watched this week, and I like Sean William Scott, but that's about it. I didn't like Jay Baruchel's character at all. He annoyed me so much. I'm unsure about Allison Pill's character. It's like, well, if you're going to start your relationship based off of cheating, like how is that really going to work long term? I don't know if that's the best way to start off a relationship. I did really enjoy like that final fight between Sean William Scott and Lee Schreiber. I did think that was pretty good, but like the rest of the movie leading up to that, I was just like, I'm not hating it, but I'm not like enjoying it. It's all right, I guess. So maybe on the rewatch, I'll see what other people see. Like I said, it is just the first time I've seen it, but right now it's a no.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, that's okay. I mean, look, I wish that Miracle came out of the 2010s, but hey, it came out of the last decade. But no, as I said, this was one of my 3 first time watches, but it's not my favorite. So that's okay.
But Chad, we go back to you. What is your next nomination?
This is how it works sometimes, people start throwing out their weirder movies, and normally around 11 or 12. And then, we just keep going until someone goes, you know what? I'm fine with that one. But like I tried for Goon. But I'm going to go with another one that I'm not actually sure how many people have seen, because I know that it doesn't come up a whole lot, but it's by like one of my favorite directors. I think it's a great like hangout movie. It has been a while since I've seen it, and I'm due for a rewatch. And it's another baseball movie, I'm nominating Everybody Wants Some from Richard Linklater. Yeah, I love Richard Linklater because he does like a lot of different types of movies. Like he'll give you like the indie love, stories with the Before trilogy. He'll give you the ones that are like, the one that's like, a boy's life, real life boy's life throughout, films over like a decade. Then he'll give you just a crowd pleasing, beloved School of Rock. And then sometimes he'll just give you the straight up party movies, like Dazed and Confused is a great hangout movie. And then this one, Everybody Wants Some, it's like the 2010s Dazed and Confused, I guess. Because it is about like a college baseball movie where they're coming into, I think, train baseball, but it's also like a college movie, so they're partying, having a good time. And I like the baseball stuff in it. I like the back and forth between all the college guys, and I just think it's a really fun, well directed baseball movie. So yeah, I really need to give this a rewatch because I also thought it was very funny. So Everybody Wants Some.
I don't like Dazed and Confused, and I'm not a fan of Everybody Wants Some. It's a no for me. It's just not.
Dazed and Confused?
I don't like Dazed and Confused. I always get Dazed and Confused when I'm watching it. But Dan, what do you say about Everybody Wants Some?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Richard Linklater fan. I'm familiar with quite a few of his films in his filmography, and like Boyhood was my favorite film of the decade of the 2010s.
Wow, nice.
And I have a friend, Steven, who is a massive fan of this movie, and I just am not that high on it to him. But if you see go look in the cast of some names of some of the actors playing some of the players that like the kid from Road to Perdition's in it. I believe Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son is in it now. We've seen him in a few things since then. It's like a who's who of young actors have now started to kind of translate into other things. What's that kid? Lotson is Superman in the Superman and Lois show on WB, and obviously Wyatt Russell's, and he's a U.S. agent, and then he's also in Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. So some of these people have translated to other roles after this. I just am not the biggest fan of this movie. At the time, I did like it, but as the years have gone on, I've liked other Richard Linklater films, and I don't even think this is one of the best baseball films of that decade. We haven't even brought up probably one of the best ones yet. So I'm just gonna have to say no on this one.
Jacob, what do you say about Everybody Wants Some?
I say that I haven't seen it.
And Jonathan, what would you have said about Everybody Wants Some?
Yeah, the reason why I just was relieved is because I thought Dan was gonna say yes, but then I was like, oh no, he's gonna come to me. But because I forgot to put it on the list, that's why. And I like Everybody Wants Some a lot. I'll be honest, if I had added it, I think it would have been like 13. I mean, it would have been that darn close. But I think it's still a very, very good movie. Actually, I would have said a slight yes.
But unfortunately, Everybody Wants Some is going to make the list. And back to me, and I'm going to bring up Ford v Ferrari about the 66 Le Mans race. It's either 66, 65, I know. But this is such an interesting story, and it's one of those ones that I went in not knowing too much about what to expect. But it was a fun story of this whole story about how these companies wanted all three of their same cars to cross the line at the same time, and in the hat like there. I just think it was a a really good movie. I think Matt Damon and Christian Bale are great in it. And it's just been enjoyable. And fun fact, the racer that won, Bruce McLaren, he's a Kiwi, so there's that as well. But he's played by an Australian in the movie, which is wrong. But Dan, what do you say about Ford v Ferrari?
Yeah, when this came out, it was one of my favorite movies of the year. What's 2018, something like that, 2017, 2018, 19. And I love this movie. The ending is so anticlimactic, but it's a true story. It's based on a true story. Like everything that leads up to that is so dramatic and so interesting and so fascinating, but then the ending is so anticlimactic, and I remember seeing videos of this. I didn't put one and one together and realize it was in this it was this movie. But I mean, with what do we still got 2 spots left. I mean, I'm kind of on the fence with Ford v Ferrari. I mean, I want everybody else to get a chance to vote it yes or no, but I also don't want to lose a spot to this over something that maybe we could have, something that might have been a better pick. But I'm gonna take I'm gonna take a chance, and hopefully everybody says no. If they don't, it's on the list. If they do say no, then we got 2 spots still left. So I'm gonna say yes, very slightly, very, very, very slightly.
Jacob, what do you say about Ford v Ferrari?
Yeah, I like this movie. I think Christian Bale and Matt Damon are giving really good performances. But I don't think I've revisited this since I watched it for that first time back in 2019. It just hasn't been a movie that I've wanted to go back to. Maybe if I wanted to go watch a movie with my dad, then maybe we choose Ford v Ferrari. I've heard a lot of people say, like, this is just a really good dad movie.
Yeah.
Which I totally get. But like, yeah, it was one of the better movies of 2019, which I think was a really solid year. I think Ford v Ferrari was one of the better entries, but yeah, there's just a few movies I have above it on the list. I mean, if it makes the list, I'm not going to be upset at all because I do think it's a really good movie. But I'm going to give it a slight no.
Jonathan, what do you say about Ford v Ferrari?
It's going to make the list. Hell yes. I love this movie. And yeah, it is one of it's one of my rewatchable sports films, in my opinion. And Matt Damon and Christian Bale make a great duo, make a great pair. Bale is easily charismatic, like probably his most charismatic performance of his career. You just adore him as what's his name, Ken Miles. Yeah, and Bernthal is a weird casting choice as Lee Iacocca, but hey, what are you gonna do? But I think one scene-stealing moment is the Tracy Letts as Ford when Shelby takes him on a ride, and then when he takes him on a ride, he just cries, he bawls, and then we just laugh and laugh for a while until he addresses the reason, and then we go like, "Aw," like he wished his daddy were alive to see it, to feel that adrenaline in that car. Yeah, I think that 2.5 hour film just flies by, and really, I think it's one of Mangold's very best movies. So it's 100% yes for Ford v Ferrari.
But Chad, what do you say about Ford v Ferrari?
I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's one of those where I think it's kind of like of its time of like that year, people were like, oh, yeah, and then no one really wants to talk about it anymore. Unfortunately, I do think that there's a lot of really good stuff in it. I do already think we had the better racing movie on the list. Personally, maybe that's a hot take. I have no idea. I do really, just like with The Fighter, I do really like Christian Bale in it. I think the Matt Damon stuff I could do without. I think Christian Bale's stuff is like far more interesting, but we do get a lot of that. So yeah, I'm mixed on it. I could give it a rewatch, kind of like what Jacob was saying, like just give it a rewatch since I haven't really had the urge to revisit it. But I do remember liking it quite a bit when I first saw it. I just like since I've just really kind of I think dropped on it a little bit, but it's a good movie at least, so I'm fine with it being on the list.
But that Ford Ferrari is going to make the list. We've got one spot left. Dan, what movie are you going to bring up?
Well, I skipped going out for a wrestling movie the last time, but it came back to me. I didn't expect it to come back around to me. I just a movie when I first saw it, I really, really liked it, and I was shocked at what a just a heartwarming kind of relationship between a coach and a wrestler, a kid, kind of a scruffy kid who really wasn't really had any direction, and he gets involved with this stepfather who adopts him or whatever. I think I believe I haven't seen it in probably 10 years, but Malcolm's got it as the photo of the thing. So I'm going to go for Paul Giamatti's really on everybody's radar right now with the Holdovers. I love the Holdovers, and I love Paul Giamatti in Cinderella Man. I love Paul Giamatti in Sideways, and I love Paul Giamatti in this movie. And and there's also, I believe, what's his face in it? Oh God, Italian actor who was in like The Irishman. He's been in
Bobby Cannavale.
Bobby Cannavale's in there, and I just
Ryan.
At the time, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I haven't really watched it since, but Paul Giamatti's on everybody's mind right now with the Oscars and stuff. So what the hell? I'll go for Win-Win. And Malcolm's got it as the photo of the thing. So maybe somebody else out there likes Win-Win.
Jacob, what do you say about Win-Win?
Yeah, I love Paul Giamatti, but unfortunately, this is just a blind spot of mine when it comes to his filmography that I haven't gotten to yet. So I'm interested. I've heard decent things about it, but just haven't gotten to it yet.
Jonathan, what do you say about Win-Win?
This is one of my other three. This is my favorite of the three. I like this one a lot. Win-Win is the one that was the one wrestling movie I thought, like, if there's one more that I would actually add onto this list, maybe is like one that potentially could be added onto this list. It is Win-Win. I like that it's a little more complicated beneath its surface. Actually, the wrestling aspects are my least favorite parts of the movie. It's basically the personal story beyond the wrestling aspect, because the dynamic between Giamatti and the kid was quite interesting in a way. And also, it's a very fascinating story about the law in a way. I mean, if you're a lawyer watching this, you're going to be frustrated as hell what he commits in the beginning of the movie. And I like how it circles back into to the end, because it ends on an unconventional note for both aspects of the film, both legally and both in the sports aspect. And I loved the ending of both of those aspects because it's very real. It doesn't subvert to those tropes that we see in other sports movies. So, and yeah, Giamatti has been on the brain, of course. I think it's a very close race between he and Cillian Murphy, but I think Giamatti is beloved enough that I think he'll get that Oscar for the best actor for The Holdovers. But it's very close. We'll see with SAG. But you know what? Win-Win should be on the list. There is one other movie that is going to be we're going to get a little backlash though. Like, we didn't put another one on the list, but I like Win-Win a little more. So yes to Win-Win.
Chad, what do you say about Win-Win?
It is a very close race. But I do think Paul Giamatti will squeak out the win. We'll see. You never know. Murphy's also great. But I've slept on Paul Giamatti a ton, and I'm slowly catching up to a lot of his past ones. I only saw Cinderella Man recently, and I loved it. And it's one of those where I'm like, man, there's so many Paul Giamatti movies that I just missed out on for a long time. And then now that But I fell in love with the Holdovers, fell in love with Paul Giamatti late in the game. I'm now getting to see a lot of these movies for the first time, and I really loved Win Win, so I'm gonna say yes to it as well. I think I watched this. I use this as a vessel to watch Win Win, and I'm finally glad that I checked it out because I do like all of it. I like the personal story outside of the high school wrestling, and then I love the wrestling bits as well. I love how it like integrates, where the kid gets really excited to wrestle, and then you find out he's actually amazing at it. It's like they're like, oh shit, hell yeah! So it kind of works in their favor. I like how flawed Paul Giamatti is in it because you find out that he lied about something, and then you're just like, whoa, okay. And then when the kid finds out, it's like very dramatic and everything, and I really liked a lot of that. But it makes sense why he did what he did. For a while, I was like, this kid actor, I was like, is he good or is he not good? And I just couldn't really tell. I was like the acting in it. I was like, he could just not be good, or he's so good that he just feels so natural, like he's not even trying. But yeah, I really liked his character a lot, and how complex he was. Same with Paul Giamatti. Yeah, I really dug Win Win quite a bit. So I'm gonna say yeah.
I do think Win Win's a good movie. I think it's pretty good. And I mean, it's one of those ones like I've just put it on the thumbnail because I made the thumbnail pretty late. I googled 2010 sports movies. That was the first one that came up. So, so that's how that ended up being on the thumbnail. But yeah, I like it enough. I would have said no just because there's a couple more that was higher up that I was hoping to get to if it got back around to me, but fortunately it wasn't the case here. So we end on a win. So Win Win's going to close out the list.
Giamatti makes the list. He makes the cut.
But Jacob, what honorable mentions did you have?
Yeah, so I mean, if we were starting to get desperate for that last spot, I would have brought up Creed 2 because I think it's just as good as the first one for me personally. I think I'm a little bit higher on Southpaw than most people. I like that movie. Ip Man 2 is fantastic. I would have brought that up next. Get some martial arts in there, and then 42 is fantastic.
That's the one.
And then there's maybe if we wanted to try to get a tennis movie in there, Battle of the Sexes is really good.
Jonathan, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
Yeah, 42 was the big one. Yeah, that was the big one. I wanted to get it on the list, but there was one that was like, it could have been added for 42, dropped for 42. But I thought Senna, the documentary, was fantastic. I thought it was really good. High Flying Bird was one that I watched for the first time. I thought it was interesting, more business than sports driven about basketball. It's not as good as Jerry Maguire, but it's basically in that realm of sports agency. And one out of the box one that I would have probably debated, or we would have had to debate, is Real Steel. And that would have been an interesting debate, at least an interesting discussion to see if that's a kind of a sports movie. But in a way, it is kind of, because human boxing was banned in substitute for robot boxing. However, Hugh Jackman's character is helping that robot become competitive. So Real Steel was kind of low on my honorable mentions, but I would have given it a shot. But yeah, that's it.
I mean, I will say about Real Steels, there is, I think in Japan, there is an actual robot fighting league. So it is,
yeah,
I think it is becoming a sport. So I don't think there would have been that much debate. It's
IMDb has it listed as a sports movie, so
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Chad, what's some on which you had?
Yeah, if I could have got just like thrown one on with no debate on there. I would have tried to get Battle of the Sexes on. I love that movie. But I should have nominated that instead of Free Solo. I didn't know a lot of people hadn't seen it. But yeah, I love that. I actually also love Southpaw. I'm a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. Foxcatcher 42, I agree, would be a good one. And then our top commenter, Dylan, shouted out a couple ones as well in a chat. He said Uncut Gems because it focuses on basketball. Black Swan, or Bad Ballet. Sort of. And then you have Silver Linings Playbook because of dance and football. And then the OJ Made in America documentary. Like
actually,
6 hours long or something.
You know what? Man, I wish. You know what? Dang it, that's a great call. OJ Made in America.
Yeah,
it's a great call.
Yeah,
that's all I had.
Fudge.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think Black Swan is kind of on that little bit of
horror, right? You'd consider it more horror.
It is a
no,
horror.
no. There's not so much that. It's more the fact of it counting as a sports movie.
Yeah.
I mean, so like depending on what way you go, because dance like there is competitive dance competitions and because just to spoil a pick for if we ever get to sports movies of the 2000s, Bring It On is a good example of that.
Well, that's a sport, no. Cheerleading.
Yeah. But I mean, there's that, and also You Got Served as well, which is kind of in that street dance type battle thing. So, so there's arguments to be made for dance.
So the next rank on dance battle movies. Do it.
Well, no, because I didn't have it on the poll, but maybe on a poll in the future there'll be dance battle movies coming up. But some of my own mentions that I had. One of my out of the box picks I ultimately just chose not to bring up at all, just because it's really skirting of if it's a sports movie or not, and that's the movie Frozen, the 2010 movie Frozen. Because it is about they are about a ski going to the ski resort and doing skiing, but it's mostly a survival movie. But it's one of those ones. Yeah. So that's why I ultimately chose not to bring it up. The Art of Racing in the Rain, I think, is a really good movie. Also, and my favorite of the Disney sports movies that came out in this area is I actually really liked $1 Million Arm. I think that was a really good movie.
That's a good job.
And then the last couple I'll bring up is Born Sacrifice with Tobey Maguire in that. I find a lot around watching that. And
the chess movie.
Yeah. And once again, another one that kind of there's definitely an argument to be made, but it's kind of on that borderline cusp. Molly's Game, I think, is a really fun sports movie. Because I mean, it's one of those ones like it is on ESPN. Poker can be considered a sport, so but it's also one of those ones. Yeah. But Dan, what's some honorable mentions that you had?
You guys named quite a bit. A couple that you guys haven't named that I thought were decent were Trouble with the Curve, Clint Eastwood, Justin Timberlake, Amy Adams, Race about Jesse Owens and more than just Jesse Owens, hence the title Race. I know certain demographic, maybe more Chad and Jacob and Jonathan might have enjoyed Greater, that football movie, inspirational.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of it because it wasn't my demographic. It was kind of a little bit before me. I know arguably Concussion to me was a phenomenal movie. There's not a lot of football in it. It's you kind of flashbacks to football, but you're dealing with ex-football players, so it's kind of that would have been a interesting one. Another documentary that I thought was really good. I think it won the Oscar. It's called Icarus. It's about doping in cycling.
Oh, yeah.
Doping and cycling. And the one I really battled with the entire time, whether I should bring it on or bring it off, or is Foxcatcher, because I know it just hasn't resonated since it came out, and John DuPont and the whole thing that happened and the DuPont legacy and all that. And so I thought, well, do people want to vote for a miserable, horrible, terrible sports movie? I didn't know if you guys would go for it, even though it's a great movie. It's pretty not good. The subject matter is really not good, and so I didn't know if people would go for something like that. So that's why the whole show I debated whether I should go for it or not, and I went other places instead of Foxcatcher. I think that's we're going to resent not having Foxcatcher on the list, but people don't want negative movies on the list, so that's why I didn't go for it.
Well, I don't know. I, Tonya is kind of a negative movie.
But it's fun, though. It's funny.
It's fun, yeah.
It's comedic. You know,
I mean,
Cap is just miserable. It's a miserable story. It's a miserable. I mean, these people are miserable. You know, whatever.
I mean, what I'll say is you can't always have sports movies that like.
You're right, Malcolm.
Really inspirational. You're
right, Malcolm.
You do have to have
Right.
you do have those things.
That's why I thought about it. I came very, very close to bringing it up because of that. Then I said, I don't think these guys are going to go for it.
But just to bring up,
the OJ one.
Just to bring up a couple in the chat that haven't been mentioned yet. Stephen also brought up Molly's Game, but he also brought up Soul Surfer backwards, which is about rowboating, and he thinks and Here Comes the Moon is actually quite a fun.
That's not bad.
It was nowhere near the top of the list. I was going to bring it up, but yeah, and then he also did bring up Foxcatcher and Unknown. Dylan's just debating about ballet and dance.
You know what? If it were earlier, maybe I would have gone for Black Swan. Yeah, Black Swan.
I mean, look, if I'd thought about it, if it came up on some other list that I looked at, because it wasn't on any list that looked at, I probably would have put it on my list, and I might have actually put it up, but yeah. But for that, we get to the fun part of actually ranking the 12. Just to recap, the 12 that is on this list. We've got The Fighter, Warrior, Moneyball, Draft Day, Rush, McFarlane USA, Creed, I, Tonya, Fighting My Family, Eddie the Eagle, Ford v Ferrari, and Win Win. Dan, which of those movies are you going to vote to put at 12?
I'm going to go with that one right there, McFarlane USA.
Jacob, what do you have for 12?
So I forgot to write it down, but Win-Win, because I haven't seen it.
Jonathan.
Eddie the Eagle.
Chad.
Where is it? McFarland USA.
Nice try.
I put Win-Win. So Jonathan, between Win-Win and McFarlane USA, which one do you want at 12?
You know what? It's too recent of a watch, so Win-Win. Yeah, I have to let it marinate a little bit. But again, I'm glad Giamatti's on the list.
Aw, I like that movie. It's like I do like it.
Jacob, what do you have for 11?
Eddie the Eagle.
Jonathan.
Yeah, it's not the exact title of the movie because this is a whoopee movie, but I put Eddie.
Chad.
I might be on an island. I don't know how long I'll try for this, but I'll say Draft Day.
I also might be on an island, but I put Rush. Dan.
Ooh,
McFarlane USA. Why'd you change, Chad?
Oh, I forgot.
With that, it's going to be Eddie the Eagle.
All right, I'll switch back.
So, are you switching back or Chad?
Sure, I can. If
it's up to you.
We all have freedom of choice. I mean,
sure, I'll switch back and let it be a tie. Malcolm decides.
No, I have to change mine actually. So. This is actually tough for me. After that, Eddie the Eagle.
Well,
Oh, that's not right. It's Eddie the Eagle, isn't it? Or
Nope.
well, Chad changed back to McFarlane.
wait a minute. What? What? Dan, dude.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Jacob and Jonathan.
Yeah, that's
Sports,
why
everybody. You desire to be competitive.
That's why I was being sure if Chad was changing or not, or if it's just speculating at the time. But Jonathan, what do you have for 10?
Okay, now I'm heated. Eddie.
Chad.
Yeah, I went with Draft Day.
I'm sticking with Rush.
I went with Fighting with My Family. Read that.
Well, I crossed it out because I thought it was gonna be 11, and then I rewrote it. Eddie the Eagle.
But if that Eddie the Eagle is going to be at 10 now.
Okay, now I need to think. All right. Let's see. Draft Day Rush. One's gonna be on there for a little bit.
But Chad, sticking with Draft Day.
Yeah, I just looked through the rest of the list, and this is the correct, most logical one to do. Draft Day.
I'm sticking with Rush.
Malcolm,
Dan, what-
And Chad convinced me to switch to Draft Day.
Jacob.
I went Ford v Ferrari.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Draft Day is number 9 because I put Fighting with My Family.
It is going to be
That's fine.
Draft Day at 9.
Fair enough.
Okay.
But I'm sticking with Rush. Dan.
I'm going back to Fighting with My Family.
Jacob.
I'm sticking with Ford v Ferrari.
Jonathan.
Fighting.
Chad.
And I'll back up Jacob. Ford v Ferrari.
Which means it's a tie between Fighting for My Family and Ford v Ferrari, and it comes to me to decide.
It's going to be Fighting because he nominated Ford.
You'll find out in a minute.
I think it's a
Take you that
surprise. See?
Oh, I am surprised.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
I mean, both of them are movies. Both of them are movies I nominated to.
Oh, fair.
So,
yeah. That's why I was mentioning that. I was like, because he brought it up.
But Dan, what do you have next?
Fighting with My Family.
Jacob.
I'm gonna go Rush now.
Jonathan.
Yeah, there's no way for me Fighting with My Family is better than the 6 above it. In my opinion.
Chad.
I backed one of the two. Rush.
Rush.
What?
Hey, Florence
Over
Pugh.
Fighting?
Yeah.
Daniel Bruhl.
Florence Pugh.
Daniel,
Nick Frost.
The Rock.
Chris Hemsworth.
Nick Frost.
Yeah, my next would be Olivia Wilde, but that's you win.
Hey, just don't switch your board.
The reporter who got beat up.
Jacob, what do you have for 6?
Hold on. Fighting with My Family.
Jonathan.
Fighting.
Chad.
Yeah, I'm actually fine with Fighting being at 6.
I mean, I'm also fine with Fighting being at 6, but I went the Fighter. Dan.
Oh, don't go there, Malcolm. Fighting with My Family.
That's his number 1, the Fighter.
It's a tough. I'll be honest. My top 5. It's hard. This is hard. So we got Fighter, Warrior, Moneyball, Creed, and the Fighter. I'm sorry. Wait. Fighter, Warrior,
Yeah, we've got the
Moneyball,
Fighter,
Creed.
Warrior, Moneyball, Creed, and I, Tonya.
Oh, okay.
Such a good list.
Yeah, that's a good top 5. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for this one.
I don't know what the fuck to do, to be honest here.
5-way
Chad,
tie.
what do you have? What 5?
Who are you going for? Me?
Chad.
Chad. Okay.
And I'm so conflicted. Oh no.
Come on, Chad.
I don't know what to do. I'll say Creed.
Ooh.
There's so many good ones. What do I do?
I'm going to stick with the Fighter. Dan.
Creed.
Ooh, shit.
Jacob.
I said I, Tanya.
Jonathan.
I, Tanya.
Ooh.
Come on, Malcolm. I always go to Malcolm.
Because I'm the one that likes to sit on the Hall of Hot
I know,
Takes.
Malcolm. I know why. It's a rhetorical question. Damn it!
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
We got 3 wrestling, 1 baseball. Yeah. I'll be
But
gotta be honest. Harvey.
I'm sticking with the Fighter. Dan.
Creed.
Jacob.
I'm not happy about it, but I want the Fighter.
Come on.
Jonathan.
I'm sorry, Dan. The Fighter.
Oh, you guys, the fighter's way better than Creed.
I can't block anything, so it's going to be the Fighter.
Unbelievable. You guys are unbelievable. There's no way Creed is better than the fighter.
This is a dope top 5.
Top 5. Look, I'll be honest. This is actually the first time I didn't rank because they're equally. It's like it's by a Alexander, not Alexander, Lightning McQueen's tongue. Number 1. It's like that close.
But I'm going to Moneyball. Dan.
Oh.
I'm sticking with Creed.
Jacob.
Creed.
Jonathan.
Creed.
Now you put Creed.
Ed.
It doesn't matter. Creed's 3. I would have said Creed probably 2. All right, number 1.
You know what?
Yep.
Each of these are worthy number 1s. I'm not kidding. So, with arms wide open.
All right, Malcolm.
That was my
I'm
sacrifice.
gonna flip a coin. Budget.
You don't have to.
Yeah. Well, let me see.
But
Hmm.
Dan, what do you have for number 1?
Warrior.
Jacob.
Warrior.
Jonathan.
Well, I went with the flip of the coin, and the coin determined it for me. So I'm happy with either. But in the end, Warrior.
Chad.
That's disappointing. Should have won Best Picture. It's easily Moneyball.
It's easily Warrior.
No.
Wait, didn't both of those come out at the same year? Warrior and
I
Moneyball?
believe so.
2011.
Yeah, they would have been in the same Oscar ceremony, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would have been. It's better than like half
And
of that.
one of these was nominated for Best Picture. That's right. It wasn't Warrior.
Yeah, but
Which
Warrior's
should be
better
known.
than half of those movies, though.
They don't always get it right, Chad.
I mean,
As far as the
Come on.
nominees.
extremely
As far as
loud
the
and incredibly close.
Oh, fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean,
I would put Warrior over that one for sure.
Yeah.
which that one?
But that being said, our top 12 sports movies of the 2010s. At number 12, we've got Win Win. At 11, we've got McFarlane USA. At 10, we've got Eddie the Eagle. At 9, we've got Draft Day. At 8, we've got Ford v Ferrari. At 7, we got Rush. At 6, we got Fighting My Family. At 5, we got I, Tonya. At 4, we got Fighter. At 3, we got Creed. At 2, we got Moneyball. And our number 1 is Warrior. And Stephen just wants to know he'd love to figure it out.
You know what?
Wow.
Look, I'm glad you do. I think you're the first one who said that.
Ever.
Well, I mean, I think I've seen it once, but I can't remember.
I've seen it once. That's enough for me.
But that's a good thing about movies in general. Everyone's got different opinions.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that is the end of ranking for this week. Next week we are going to be doing top 12 Sam Rockwell movies. I don't know why I was about to say Samuel Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
But
Rockwell.
But Dan, where can people find you online?
Hi, you can find me under my name, Dan Skip Allen, on Facebook, X, Threads, Blue Sky, any variation of that on like Letterboxd or Instagram, DP Skip Allen or From the Fourth Row. Also, I'm a film critic in Orlando, Florida. I write for FromTheFourthRow.com and DisappointmentMedia.com. Those are the two main sites you can find my reviews at. Also, I'll be popping up on the Dill Pickle Network in the next month or so. I'll be on Gone with the Wind every week, talking about awards, the Oscars and so forth, SAG Awards, Golden Globe, that sort of stuff with Malcolm, my co-host with Malcolm on Gone with the Wind. We usually record on Mondays, so stay tuned for Gone with the Wind tomorrow. Also, I'll be starting a new special series in 2024. It's the 30th anniversary of a funny man who I think is one of the funniest people in the history of film and comedy, Jim Carrey. So I'll be starting a new series involving Jim Carrey for the next year. So stay tuned for that.
Jacob, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can catch me mostly over at the Movie Hero Network. Tomorrow night we'll be going live with the Lonely Marks, discussing this weekend's Royal Rumble event and maybe some Vince McMahon news. That's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, Austin and I will be going live and kind of doing like a January wrap up where we'll just be talking about the movies we've seen through the month because it was January.
Yeah.
Jonathan, where can people find you online?
Yeah, January has not been a great month, I'll be honest. 2024 has been off to a rough start. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and there are different variations of Cine Caro. Letterboxd, I just review movies. Nothing much going on in January, to be honest. So, the one movie I would recommend, see The Beekeeper, I guess. I think it's the only solid movie in my opinion. But also catch up on Oscar movies or movies that were under the radar. International feature films. Catch up with those. I do have something coming up on the Movie Hero Network. Yeah, the Seen and Heard trivia on February 5th. I think it's that. I think the next week I'll be there competing. That should be fun. And Instagram. I post reviews, funny things. I mean, I do the splice memes, and I did one for Best Picture. I made a little fun of those. I mean, I think I got a lot of good clicks about Forrest Gump and Barbie in the same movie, and that's pretty funny. I think for my tournament, February is coming up. So the month of love, or one of those, descriptions for February. I'm going to tackle the romantic comedies of the 2000s tournament. So that'll be interesting to see which one will win that one. But that's it. That's it for me. And this was a fun show of sports movies. I had a good time. Go Lions, I guess.
Hey.
Chad, where can people find you online?
Yep. Thank you. This was a great show. Check out Chadwick Webb is my channel. We do a lot of rankings, stuff like that. Try to do other things, but it's mostly rankings over there. You ranking with me. Dan's been on there, a few times. Also, speaking of Dan, he's going to be on our episode for Picture This next month. What is Picture This? It's also on the Dill Pickle Movie Network, where we basically go through all the years of the Oscars and we try to watch every single film ranked, every film nominated for Best Picture. And we're doing 1943 for Casablanca month. It's romantic, right? And I think there's some other romantic movies in that slate as well. It's not February yet, though. This month we did the very first year, which was 1927/1928. So a lot of silent films, which is very interesting to check out those and see the variations of those. They're not all just one thing. And then check out the Nerd Entertainment Network, where I do a show called Welcome to Prime Time with my wife, Carrie, and my buddy Hunter. And we talk horror movies. We do brackets. We do a lot of really fun stuff over there. Sometimes we'll just review new horror movies or older horror movies, and we just have a really great time. Did I say we do a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer discussion as well? We're actually probably going to record one of those tonight, and it's backward on season 6. So a lot of fun time over there. Check out my blog, cefhreviews.weebly.com. I got that perfect that time. I'm trying to update that more. It's slow going, but I just created it. So and then also check out my letterbox. And again, I love Rankum. This was fun. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone's out here complaining about January. We're getting things like the Iron Claw, the holdovers.
Get ready for a boatload of good movies.
So I don't know what everyone's complaining about there, but you can find me on Tape for Productions, Rose Rankin every Sunday night. Next week is going to be Sam Rockwell movies. And then you can see I'll be back here tomorrow for Gone with the Wind, where we're talking about the Oscar nominations. We've got Wolfman on as a guest. And I'm also going to be popping up. I also pop up from time to time in the Movie Hero Network with various tournaments and stuff. But with that being said, that is the end of ranking for this week. So we'll see you at the movies.
I'm a nerd.